Good Friday morning, guys. My name is Jerry Miller, and welcome to Real Talk, an insider's guide to real estate life and the pursuit of happiness. We're live across the Commonwealth, the country, and the world on the I Love CVille Network. Real Talk presented by Yes Realty Partners. Yes Realty Partners, guys, a firm you can count on in the second most arduous decision of your life behind who you're going to marry, and that's buying and selling of your home. Judah Wickhauer is our director, and I'm going to stop talking right now and go to the studio camera. Judah Wickhauer, distinguished gentlemen.
Good morning, sir.
Who do we have here?
We have the Urpís across the table from me as we started in the pre-show hot mic scenario. We're a bunch of Yankees and a Southerner.
Yeah.
And we're just going to have a lot of fun today. We're going to talk about how it's never too late to get started. And as we said in our preempting to the show, you know, Yona and I, from a personal experiences, so this is not coming from some place that we've never experienced before. We went through our physical tragedy between 2008 and 2010, and you can rebuild and you can start back over again. And that's kind of what this is going to be about today. And, you know, you don't need to show up with a ton of money.
Nope.
And we'll talk a little bit about this, a few less of these.
You drink one of those every day.
I think more than one of
I know
those every day.
He's about to give you a lesson over here.
I am going to get a lesson.
Let me double that calculation.
That's
as
right.
well
So
before-
I'll shut up
2X.
and let the Urpís introduce themselves.
All right. Well, why don't we start? Let's go age first.
Age
first.
H and beauty together, though.
Age and beauty
There you
together.
are. Handsomeness.
I love that. Xavier Urpí, introduce yourself to everybody.
So I'm Xavier Urpí. I work at Emergent Financial Services. I've been in the financial business since I think I was like 3 or 4 years old. No, actually, I started in New York.
It was a Stone Age, right?
Just a little bit after that.
Bronze. They
just a
had
little
gone
after
to
that. We actually had, you know, when we were doing. So I started actually as a computer programmer, and I programmed all the financial analysis at the investment management company of Lehman Brothers, right? And when I was in school, we did cards. I got the job at Lehman Brothers, and it's like, where's the cards? And the guy says, no, we actually use these computers now. We don't use cards. And I said, I just aged myself. I mean, I come out of college, we use cards. I don't use cards, but. That's how I started my business. I was on the computer program side, and the other guys on the side were using my programs, investing. And I told my boss, I said, what are those guys doing? Because they're reading the paper, they don't look like they're working very hard, right? And he says, those are the portfolio managers. And I said, how much does they make? And he says, they make about 10 times what you make. I said, how do I get there? And there you are. The rest is history. The rest is history. So we, like I said, Emergent Financial Services, we started that company back in 2018, right? That's correct.
Well, I mean, the original was 1995, and then
Right.
we merged it and went.
Well, we had two. We
Really
had Cypress
individual
Asset Management.
based.
That's right.
Cypress Asset Management back in 95.
So Alex, tell them who you are.
So I'm Alex Urpí. In case you don't see the resemblance, I am related. I am the son of this. The eldest son, the number one son of this distinguished gentleman.
Your family's watching.
Oh, yeah.
You still would say
I still would say number one son.
Would.
Number one son.
Would.
And my mother might also say number one son. Basically, ever since I was small, a little kid, you know, my dad had his own business. So we sort of grew up in that vein of you can have your own business, you can be an entrepreneur. We sort of understood intuitively what a bond is. So when I went to college and I began to study economics, and people started talking about the Federal Reserve and bonds, I'm like, I know what a bond is. And everyone else has that blank stare, and I'm like, I actually know what this is. And then basically came out of college, started doing economic research for a few years. Had a similar moment where I had a lot of people coming up to me through my volunteer work at Forward Adelante, the premier Latino networking group here in Charlottesville. A lot of people, I've practiced that so many times for today, mañana, that now I have it going.
It does, yeah.
Just had enough people coming up to me saying, hey, do you have any financial advice? And I had to do my legalese and say, I can't legally give you financial advice because I'm not registered. And finally, I had the same notion. I went to my brother Nick, and we basically sat there and said, we're providing all this advice to other people who then sell it as financial advice, and we can't do it ourselves. Let's get the license for the firm in addition to our own licenses. Went that way. My dad was like, hey, I'm doing institutions, you're doing individuals. Why don't we put it together? And so now I back him up on institutions. His face and gray hairs are our closer for individuals. He's the closer.
You're the closer.
He's the closer. Just when people are like, I like Alex, I like Nick, but they're younger than 35.
I'm just not crazy about the fact he says that's the face and the hair that's closing. I mean, there's like
I think
no
it's the
experience.
intellect.
No,
This guy, I love this guy, but he may be my favorite Urpí. I'm just telling everybody out there, Nick and Michael, Mrs. Urpí, I have not met you, but this might be my favorite Urpí right here.
But we have other Urpís part of the business that we're not talking about. You might want to talk a little bit about
So
them.
Nicholas and Michael, my two brothers, they're also part of the firm. So Nicholas, he's pretty much our financial planner, also known as social media ninja.
He's embraced the CMO moniker.
He has embraced Chief Marketing Officer. It's dangerous to give Nick Chief anything, but he has embraced that. But I mean, even before he was doing that, he does a lot of our financial planning. So when people come to us and say, how do I even get started? He'll be like, here's what you got to do budget-wise. Here's what you need to take a look at. Here's how long your money will last. He does a lot of that. Michael is mostly on our research side. So a lot of times when we'll come to people and say, here's the analysis of your portfolio, here's the funds we've looked at, here's the research we've done, that's Michael in the back. Churning it out and saying, look at this, take a look at this, have an idea on this. And so he runs a lot of that. So it's just a big family team effort behind. And then of course, Mrs. Urpí
Keeps us in line.
Keeps us in line, always thinking up new ideas. Why don't you do this? The true boss.
Always.
The true boss.
I'm just sitting here smiling because we have so much in common, other than being handsome, good looking, and smart.
Thank you.
Right. I was talking about your father.
He was looking at me when he said that. You should have figured that out.
Mustache man to another.
I'm just saying.
That's true. That's true.
just
I'm happy
saying.
to say I inherited maybe at least like 1% of it or something.
Yeah, no. Nice try, pal. But I come from a family business background, and I know we're going to talk about financial and how we can help people. But let's start off there because I've got a unique perspective about this. I'm the oldest. I am always called number one son.
Number one son.
Then they said, well, we just kept on going because we screwed up with you. Got to figure out how we can get it better. After 5, they just gave up. They said, yeah, forget about it. But so how does it feel? How is it to have a family-run business? What does Sunday look like for you guys? What does a Sunday family dinner look like for you guys?
That's a good question.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because it's not so much a Sunday dinner as every single day for dinner. One of the things about the Urpí family is everybody eats at the same time every night. I don't like from when they were young and they were in high school and college. I said, yeah, you can do your thing, but at a particular time, everybody eats dinner. None of this, you eat dinner at 4, somebody else at 6, everybody eat dinner at the same time, right? So that we're a family, right? And so part of every day is what's going on, right? What's going on in the world, what's going on in our little world. And the idea is, it's interesting because we're in the office, all 4 of us are in the office all the time. And so it's easy to go into somebody else's office. Did you think about that? Or what about this? But the interesting thing is, the head of the family, Mrs. Urpí,
Sure.
She brings some ideas that, you say to yourself, I never thought of that. Yeah, I never thought of that, right? So
super dynamic, and the same thing with me. When we had our multiple businesses, my mother was in the office every day, so I was the president of the mother. So even though I was the CEO of the company, Mom really ran everything. But what I'm talking about, right? Because we all live in different homes, right? We don't live under one roof now any longer, right?
Oh,
no, we're
They're all under one roof.
It's very European.
It's very European.
Yeah.
So my deadline for that is we have cousins in Spain that were there till 35. So I'm like, okay, at 35 I got a problem. I gotta get out of there. But I'm not quite there yet.
You're good for a couple more years.
I'm still good for 6 more years. But there's just a certain joy of living in addition to financial savings.
Good for you.
But there's a certain joy of living under one roof like this. We go there for dinner, we have dinner at night, and I'm just able to sit down with my dad and my brothers, glass of wine, and we can talk for 20, 30 minutes when dinner's over about any topic that we want.
What I'm trying to get to, we had a family rule. So a little bit different because our ages were a little bit spread out. We had our own children, and we all live within 5 miles of each other. And we have Sunday meals together.
Got it.
And the rule is no business. Cannot talk business on a Sunday meal thing. And that was hard. That's really hard.
It is hard.
But no business. We can talk family matters. We can talk, we hate this one, we like this one. Mets suck, Yankees are great, whatever on that stuff of it. But no business. That was a rule that we set up in the beginning because otherwise, we'd end up
bickering.
And not so much bickering. We'd just sit and have a business meeting on a Sunday meal instead of having a Sunday meal catching up with
and I think for us, you do need to keep it somewhat separate, and also in this sense, you don't want it to become too informal. Like one of our rules at the office, right, because it's 4 family members, is never say anything to another, one of the brothers or my father that you wouldn't say if they were not related to you, if you worked for them. In other words, you'd never say anything. Let's say you make a mistake, or someone says, "Hey, you didn't do this right." You would never say to your boss, "Oh, well, that's your fault. You didn't tell me this," right? Because then that boss would say, "Farewell."
Well, you go to the brother that, hey, not that Mike or Nick would ever make a mistake.
Yeah,
ever. But yeah. Anyway, I just wanted, because it was a very unique dynamic. You don't hear a lot of family businesses together. No. My wife and I have been doing it for 35 years together on that stuff, and it's a unique dynamic, and it just popped in my head when you were talking that. So what is it like for those who are watching that's never been around? Jerry's in a family business, right? What does that do? And there's a lot of them out there that we're not really talking about.
No, there are.
It's interesting, Keith, though, when we were in New York, one of the things, Italian families, the same thing, they get together. Sunday is a big deal, right? And in this case, it was my wife's mother, and she had just a small apartment, and so they just have a table going from like the dining room all the way to the living room, right?
Sure. Through the hallway.
Through the hallway, exactly. And so all 3 families, they just came and had dinner every Sunday, right? And it was... in those moments, there was no business talk. It felt like there was
It was family.
A lot of yelling and screaming, but that's just that's just the exuberance of Italians, right? Discussing and talking to each other. Exactly. So
I get it.
So I tell you, if there's somebody outside the window, if the window was open, somebody outside said, "Boy, that family's having a big trouble." No, it was just fun.
We used to go to Bay Ridge to my grandma's house.
Bay Ridge,
right? And my grandma lived on the 5th story walk up because the less money you made, the higher you lived, right? And that was the same thing. But the windows were always open in August.
Exactly.
The Puerto Rican family below was arguing because they were in the same thing. We were arguing, and anyway, I went off on a tangent here.
It's the collegiality of I think when you work in a family business, because you have a certain synergy that you can bounce ideas off each other really quickly. Our Monday morning meetings where we just talk about the markets, we sit down at a table and you're going back and forth. And what do you think about this? What do you think about that?
But there's very clear division lines, right? In all sincerity, right? And that who's responsible for what, and this is what I'm responsible for.
One of the partners is watching right now.
Which one?
Guess.
Nick.
Yeah, that's what he has to say right now. Do you want to guess?
What she said?
Something tied to what Keith said. He said, Keith is exactly right. Nick and Mike don't make mistakes.
That is true.
I just realized it was the smart and good-looking ones, and it wasn't sitting across the table.
You knew which 2 were the important ones.
I knew right away.
It's going to be a show full of singers.
I think so. I see that.
So if everybody knows, if everybody starts going like this and talking, my hearing aids died on me, so I'm reading lips through this whole interview.
That's amazing.
If everybody starts going like this, they're talking bad about me. Yeah. So let's talk about this, right? Let's get a little personal. Let's get down and dirty on this stuff. I brought some stuff that we don't want to talk about any of our personal stuff, but we're in rebuilding mode. Let's talk about somebody who walks in and says, "Okay, I only have enough for 2 lattes. I want to take this $10 a week. What can I do with this?" I'll turn it loose to you guys.
There's a lot of things. It's very easy, actually. People, I think, mistake how easy it is to begin the process of just putting that $10 away every single month, every single week, right? I've had people walk in and be like, "I can just do $35 a month," and I'm like, "There's your start."
Yeah.
There's your start. You set it up, and what the beauty of it is, I think people often think that retirement accounts, the ones that are tax advantaged, your IRAs, your 401ks, things like that, but that's only for rich people. And not saying rich people don't take advantage of it, but they're actually designed they have cutoffs, and they're actually designed for people
That's right.
who make less money because you can't put more than $6,000.
Let's talk about that because that's a real number, right?
6 G's.
Yeah, you can't put more than $6,000 into a traditional IRA in a given year or a Roth IRA in a given year. So it's really designed for people that are saying, I can't do that much. I just want to put it away in a place where it grows tax-free. And that's your power, right? Because when we all know Einstein said compound interest is the most powerful force in the universe, right? That money starts growing, and if you can avoid the tax drag, right? The fact
Jay
that
Powell?
No.
Not Jay Powell.
No,
That's very unique.
Jay Powell.
He may believe that, but he
He
never
might
said
believe
that.
it, but he never said
Einstein
it.
said that.
Einstein had a brain a little bigger than his. But
I know how he feels about Jay Powell.
exactly. Say Powell, Brunetti, and Yellen. You
There's
put them all
a lot.
together.
All right, let's move on, folks.
Let's move on. Don't get on the Fed. But you start there, and really that's what it's designed for. Because you avoid the tax drag, your tax growth, your growth of your assets is compounding really powerfully, and at 7%. Which isn't a crazy 7% a year is pretty conservative. I mean, the stock market can easily do more than that, but 7% a year, you double your money every 10 years. And if you think about it, you sit there and say, 10 years. But that's really powerful because if you've managed to save 10 over 10 years, now you double to 20, 40, 80.
So
And
Xavier, explain compound interest, right? So for somebody who, let's say is myself, or I'm a Marine, I can't get above 3. Explain that to me in a simple terms. What does that actually mean? Because it's a beautiful thing, and Einstein quoted it, but what does it actually mean?
So what happens is, since you're investing the money in the market, and let's say, like Alex said, you get 7%, and you have $1,000, so you put $1,000 on day one, and then do nothing else the rest of the year. At the end of the year, you have $1,070, right? So that's the 7% just generated $70.
Got it.
The next year, even if you don't put any money in the market, you got $1,070 you start with. So that $70 is also now earning interest.
Got it.
So when you think of numbers that continue to grow, right, that concept of being able to have that money that is being generated year after year, it just compounds. That's what they mean by compound. That 70 now becomes a little bigger at the end of that year, and so on and so forth.
And as you add to it, that
That's right.
compound
and that's
multiplies
and that's the
multiplies
beauty.
and
You know,
multiplies.
you start. So many
See,
people
that's
don't.
why he's the closer.
There
That's
you go.
why he's
He
the
can-
closer.
he can
So
describe
many
it, he can make
people
it
don't
simple.
realize you just have to put a little bit away every single week or month or whatever it may be, and don't even think about it. Put it away. Have somebody. I mean, if you invest yourself, that's great. But even if not, have somebody invest it for you. Put it away and just let that grow. And by the time you get to, if you start at 20 or you start at 30 or start at 40, by the time you get to that ripe age of, 66 or 70, whatever the age you want to retire, right? All of a sudden you look at your portfolio and say, wow, it just grew. And the beauty of it is when you're 50 years old, you can bump that $6,000 a year to $7,000 a year, right? So now the government realizes some of us are a little slow. We wait a little. No. That was that was a different story.
Oh, different kind of slow.
yeah.
Different kind of slow.
We were having a whole disability conversation before on there. That I'm a disabled vet, and that's part of the conversation.
But it's Keith. It's amazing, and everybody that comes to our office and people that we meet. Everybody has a different story. Everybody has a different concept of how much money they save, how much money they want at retirement. And we have seen, unfortunately, even disasters where people come in, they show us their portfolio, and I say, they put you into one investment
fund.
only. One investment only.
wasn't even an index
and it
fund.
wasn't
Let's
even
put it-
a,
it
and
wasn't
it wasn't
very
a good
liquid.
investment.
Let's put it
And
that
you
way.
say, since in this case, in one case, it was like since 2001 or 2, that person had X amount of money, and today they got less. Now you tell me, how's that possible? And the market's up huge, right? And so it's sometimes investment advisors get a bad rap, just like sometimes car
real estate
salespeople.
agents do.
Real estate agents never. I never heard anything bad about real estate agents. So, and it's because there are people that just don't pay attention and don't do the right thing. It's simple. Just do the right thing and diversify that portfolio.
So pivot it back to what what we do on this side of the table and what you guys do on this side of the table and what Jerry does in the middle side of the table, it's all about relationships,
Exactly.
right? And it's not about numbers, and it's not about but we had a sit down, right? And we're struggling ourselves to recover from our retirement. And I'm an open guy. I'm a pretty easy guy to get, I'm not too self-conscious. But there was a part of me that felt like, should I really show this to these guys? Because I'm somewhat embarrassed that I got to where I was, right? And then I really only had this much, but I trust you guys enough that I slid it across the table and said, I can't do this. You guys need to do this and take it over.
Were you doing it yourself?
Oh, yeah. Well, partly was and partly wasn't. It was... Yeah.
I wish you told us that before. There goes that analysis.
That's what you're supposed to say this
So, but as you were speaking, what we do is not transactional. What we do is relational. What you guys are not transactional. It's relational. And the first thing that you started asking me questions was not about what was on the paper that I handed you. You started asking me about what my goals were, what my visions are, what Mrs. Smith's goals and visions are. Where do we want to be, and how she's on the train watching.
Yeah.
Isn't that pretty cool?
That is cool.
Watching our show, traveling on a train up north.
Yeah,
That is cool. Say hi.
To Penn, is she going to? No, she's going to Connecticut, right?
Connecticut, yeah.
Gotcha.
Go visit the grandbabies. Somebody has to stay and work.
Go figure.
I wonder who that is.
That's
Must be Emily. Must be Emily.
That's his office.
We met
Okay.
So, but in any event, so that was I was getting excited as you guys were talking about that. So let's just talk about how this works. I mean, I came and sat down with you guys. So if somebody who's watching wants to sit down and say, look, I've got a little bit. I'm willing to spend $10 less a week. What do I do?
So I'll let him talk about it, but there's one comment I want to say. When you look at investments, it's not about a return, it's about time, right? Time horizon. If you have a time horizon and you have an expectation of what you want when you want it, it's building that portfolio for that, right? But the whole process takes a little time. And I'll talk a little
It's a
about
process, and I mean, I usually do this on the account opening day, but basically, what happens is you come in, you talk with us, right? And our first step is always the same. It's like you said, it's relational. It's what do you need? What are your goals? What's your ability? We talked about it as risk tolerance and risk characteristics, but what it really means is what's your ability to take risk? In other words, and I'll do them both. What's your ability to take risk and what's your comfort level with risk? So some people are really comfortable with risk. They'll come in at 70 years old and be like, put me in these super risky things. I want to make a bunch of money in a year, right? And then we'll sit there and we'll calm them down and say, your ability to take this risk at 70 is not there. Conversely, you'll get people 20 and they're like, I don't want to lose. I don't want to lose 1%. I don't want to. And we're like, we understand that, but your ability to take risk with 40 years plus years to retirement is there. So we figure those out and we mesh them together.
So that's interesting. My thinking was the opposite. I'm almost 60. I'm thinking, well, I've got higher. I want to take more risk because my window of lifespan.
You need that money faster.
So to me, I would want to take more risk to get higher return.
Again, but it's a time horizon.
That's what we're trying to do here. We're trying to educate you.
Yeah, it's an education, and that happens. A lot of people will do that. They'll come at 55, and the assumption is I need to generate huge amounts of return. And our perspective is, remember, return and risk looks kind of like this. It's this line that's not really a diagonal line. It's a curve that the more risk you take, the more reward you get, right? But at a decreasing rate. So there comes a point where you sit there and say, I'm adding a lot of risk to this portfolio and your reward is only minimal. So if you're talking a 10-year time horizon, you sit there and say, that's not a risk you can afford to take, because if the market goes down and you begin taking money out because you're nearing retirement or you're in retirement, that's when suddenly, when you run it out to age 90, suddenly you're running out of money.
Right. Well, this is a real thing now, right? Folks are living longer than they anticipated.
Exactly.
Right. I hear this on the real estate side all the time. I have multiple clients this weekend that I'm literally going to be either listing houses or showing houses to, that they've got into this part of their life that they literally have this conversation. I didn't think I was going to live this long. Right? And I'm running out of cash. and I don't want to be house rich and cash poor.
Right.
So I'm going to sell house A. I'm going to buy house B. So I have a little bit of cash left, and I said call the Urpís for the rest of it.
Exactly.
Emergent Financial Services.
Emergent Financial. I
I
apologize.
trust the name in the name.
Call Yes Realty Partners first.
Exactly. To sell the house, and
Then we go,
buy
hey,
other
take the
one.
money, go
And then the
over that one.
leftover, you can.
And when we analyze people's portfolio, the first thing we look at is, all right, do you own
Do
a
you
home?
own a home?
How much mortgage do you have to pay still? And the other question sometimes I say is, like, let me see your interest rate. Have you refinanced? Have you thought about refinancing? And sometimes people say, I refinanced 3 years ago. I said, well, let's see today. And we look at the savings and you say, are you willing, the break even may be 12 months or 13 months, right? Meaning break even in the sense there's some cost in refinancing.
Usually longer than that, though. It's a
Well,
little
it
bit
depends
longer
on
than
the
that.
on the rate, right? It depends on the
Rate,
difference,
how much
right?
cost.
And then sometimes you can actually put that cost back into your mortgage, and you say, I'm not taking any money out of my pocket, right? And yes, the break even's a little longer, but over time you're saving a lot of money.
Well, it's funny conversations. You have somebody my age and up, or let's say our age and up. They don't want to. They just like. My parents are at the age of 80 something are refinancing their house. They go, well, I don't want to. I'm 80 years old. I don't want to sign a 30-year mortgage. And I go, what the hell do you care?
Exactly.
Right? And he goes, yeah, you're right. And
You put it that way.
And that's what I tell people is what difference does it make? You have a mortgage already. What's the difference whether you got 15 years left or you're going to have 30 years left? You're going to be saving money on a monthly basis. You have cash flow that's coming your way because your expenses have been lowered. That's what you want. That's what we're looking for.
his answer was, well, it's your problem, not mine, so I don't really care.
But it is. I mean, that's your basic step, right? We're figuring out what's the right risk for someone. We're figuring out what are ways that we can make sure your current assets are working for you in the right way. And then we say, okay, what can we begin to save?
So our businesses, what we do for a living, is really not that different, right? I mean, the pieces of the pie are a little bit different, but what you just talked about is how we do it. Today I've got a meeting with the client who's coming in from Arizona. Thanks to I Love Charlottesville and Real Talk, it was a lead that generated from this young lady watching us. She's 80, watching us on the show, and she's moving to Charlottesville. And we're not going to talk about type of house. We're not going to talk about how much she wants to spend. We're going to talk about how you want to live the rest of your life, and where do you want to go, and where's your where, right? Once we figure that out, then we'll kind of go through the rest. Well, then we'll see what's not available. That's that whole issue there. But
We're going to Waynesboro.
It might be.
Let me throw
We might be.
No, seriously, I know. Vanessa Parkhill says, making investing approachable for everyone. Thank you, in all caps, for encouraging people to just start somewhere.
That's right.
That's from Vanessa Parkhill. We should identify the latte factor. It's a book by David Bach. Discusses financial freedom and how you can get to financial freedom by making small sacrifices in your life that you won't eventually notice after a short term, like sacrificing a cup of coffee.
A cup of coffee, yes, exactly. And we were running the numbers because they have the latte factor calculator online. Keith had showed it to us.
This is shocking.
This is shocking what you're going to hear. So we put in there $25 a week.
So $5 a day.
So basically $5
During the
a
week.
day
So
during
you
the
go-
week, during the 5 weekdays on a
one
latte.
less of these.
Something like that, yeah.
Right, exactly.
So
One
if
of
you get
those.
a cup of coffee 5 days a week,
For
2
5
days off.
Exactly, 2 days off. And you could have earned 6% annually
And that's
on
low.
investment, which is low. So I mean, even 7 is on those. So we're going really conservative here, 6% annually on average, right? And you do this for 30 years. The total dollars that you had spent on the coffee is $39,000, but you have foregone $69,800 worth of
It's
interest.
twice
So
the
the
amount that
real
you spent.
the real cost of your one cup of coffee a day for $5 is $108,800.
And then if you
Which
take
is-
that and compound it,
Well, no, that's already
That's
been
with
compounded.
compounded.
That's already
That's
compounded.
with
That's already
compounding.
compounded.
Yeah.
That's with basically the 39 to the 108 is just the power of the compounding.
That's basically saying, you know what? Yes, I can forego that latte on a daily basis and know that when I'm ready to retire, there's $100,000 there that, okay, it was just because I didn't have a latte every day.
well, what happens? You got
Or
to change
two.
people's habits,
Yes.
Make
right?
your coffee at home.
That's right.
Put it in a cup and bring it with you.
Yeah.
That's what I do. That's what I've been doing my whole life.
And it's and of course, it's not just about lattes. How many times example of the little things that we do on a daily basis that you say, you know, if I'm really strapped and I don't have money to save for retirement, there's always a little thing that you're doing on a daily basis that you say, maybe I can forego that, put into a savings, and I know that you know, when I'm ready to retire, there'll be some money there.
And it's almost changing our mentality. I don't want to get all economic on us, but they basically.
I love when you do that.
Present consumption is future consumption pulled today. And what that basically means is $1 spent today is in fact worth more than $1 in the future. So.
But sometimes, it means most folks have to spend that dollar
today,
today, right?
And for most folks, you have to spend most of our dollars, right, that we'll earn in our life, we have to spend today. We can't really be saving them for the future. But the key is, if you think about consumption, something I purchased that I want to enjoy today, if I buy it for $5 today, what I am foregoing is, as we're seeing here, over $10 in 30 years. And sometimes we don't think about it that way. Well, I'm just going to enjoy this $5 today. And we're not telling people, like, eat Chef Boyardee cans and, like, make yourself miserable today. But what we're saying is, if you think about it, you have to balance. The key is to find the right balance between enjoying life today and enjoying life tomorrow, and recognizing that $1 spent today is worth more than $1 in the future.
So I have a similar conversation with all buyers, particularly first-time home buyers, when we're at the closing table, and you know, thank God we're back to in-person closings again. So we're actually looking at people across the table and having a conversation with them. And I have my version of the latte factor in reference to their 30-year mortgage, right? If you go ahead and make 2 full payments per year towards your principal, it cuts your 30-year mortgage down to 17 or 18. Okay. If you could do 3, it drops it down to 15. So you just turn.
Or better yet, do a 15-year mortgage to start.
No, don't do that.
No. Bad.
So here's
go.
Okay, so here's what I mean. I'm looking.
My home is almost paid off.
I'm looking at it. But I'm looking at it from a financial point of view.
But
right?
You're unique.
You take a 30-year mortgage, right? And obviously your payment on a monthly basis is less than if you take a 15-year mortgage, right? That doesn't stop you from prepaying and equaling the amount that you would pay to 15.
But the problem is no one will pay on the 15 track.
No, but I'm saying you have to be strong enough to say, I've got the option. You're Jerry. Yeah. You know you're willing to pay the 15-year payment, and I've got a 30-year payment here. I can match that payment by prepaying. Here's the thing. 10 years from now, all of a sudden, I lost my job. I've got a problem. Yeah. I can now begin to forego paying that principal, and I've got cash flow coming my way.
So what that does, that puts the control back in your...
Exactly.
Or I'll play devil's advocate with you, right?
Go ahead.
Okay, here's the devil's advocate for you. If you take a 30-year, instead of doing a 30, you do a 15, right? You get your fast track of the payment. You're getting equity way faster. So if you do lose your job and you have to sell your home, you're walking with a larger chunk of money. So and I've also found by talking with some of my friends that if they go with the 30 and they have the mindset, I'm going to try to pay this off in 15, without having the pressure of the 15, they never make those payments to get on the 15-year track.
So here's the response to that, right? One is, again, it's the character of the person. 2, what if you take some of that money and put it into the market and diversify into the marketplace, and you're also saving money, right?
That's a legit play.
So there's, in other words, the point is that my feeling when it comes to finance is create options, right? And I love options, and not just in the options market, but options in the sense that I want a lot of options in my life. And the 30-year gives me a tremendous option to do something because the cash flow.
Opportunity cost of money.
And they're about ready to jump that to 40. There's going to be 40-year product out there.
That's ridiculous.
I know that. I'm just saying.
Mortgage is ridiculous.
I'm just saying there's going to be, right, you can get cars now up to, 8-year loan?
That is also ridiculous.
That's ridiculous.
Don't you think that is ridiculous?
No,
it makes perfect.
In 8 years on a car that depreciates 40% when you drive it up the lot?
Well, that's it. So that we'll retract the car thing because the depreciation thing is.
The depreciation is different with cars.
But look, I mean, you're as Xavier said, it depends on the individual, where they are in their life. It takes discipline.
Exactly.
It takes discipline to make the latte factor work.
Yes,
right.
Exactly.
And I'm sitting here drinking a $5 cup of coffee and thinking to myself, how stupid am I? I just went and bought a $5.
But you like the taste of the coffee. I got a Folgers, you got a nice pie chip,
Well,
whatever that is.
well,
That's way better than mine.
To me, I'm giving back to the community, so I'm helping support Jaybird, which is a local roaster, a local coffee place. So I feel good about the purchase, but I could probably cut a couple of these out a week, and I'll take that extra $100,000.
Well, and you will also, the waistline may appreciate it.
I told Jonah this morning, my belt just went one more buckle over.
Good job.
Beautiful.
Oh, well done.
All right.
That's
Well done.
hour and a half on a bike is run. Or I just bought a bigger belt.
No, she took the credit card.
She did, actually. Of course she did.
I know you're
Yeah. Literally, before she got on the train, she said, remember, you only have this much cash on the debit card. I said, okay, honey.
Should we talk about the types of investing that people should do when working with Emergent Financial Services? What kind of funds are you guys putting folks in? Positions? Show's yours.
For us, the key is always simplicity and diversification, right? So once you've decided the type of account that's best for you, and people always usually get confused because they think IRA is like, what investment is an IRA? And so no, IRA is the type. IRA determines the IRAs, 401ks, all those things determine how it's taxed. Then you choose the investments that you want in there. And for us, there's multiple kinds of thought on this, but for us, our thinking is we want to be thinking about diversification and sectors, not individual stocks. And the reason we go this route is because what we want to do is take out the risk of an individual company. In other words, I sit there and say, for my clients, especially if you're on a lower, if you're coming in with $50,000, right? I'm not going to rack up transaction costs for you by trying to buy 300 stocks in your portfolio, right? Especially not when there are funds that'll do that. And our thinking is you sit there and say, let's say we're sitting around the table and we're sitting there saying, we think that small caps or smaller companies are going to do well this year. We got two choices. We can either say for our clients, we're going to buy funds that invest in all the smaller companies, or we're going to say, I'm smart, I'm so smart that I can pick which 3 smaller companies are going to beat all the others. And the best, they did a study, this was when I was doing CFA exam, they did a study that the best stock pickers in any given year are about as good as the best guys that pick the NFL game winners on a given Sunday, which is that maybe 60%. So the best
You mean
stock
the Greeks?
pickers.
Remember the Greek?
Yes, I remember
The Greek used to pick.
Yeah, he's a bookie.
He was a bookie.
He's a bookie.
Did he top 60?
Yeah, I mean, he was more of a notorious for his grandiose.
Oh, yes, exactly,
Okay.
exactly. Yeah.
This is an old school thing.
This is over my head.
The Greek is online now.
The intelligence level is just above my head here. But basically, you're sitting there saying, you can't routinely every single year pick the winning stocks. What you can do is be right about where you think the market's going and make sure that people are in a little bit of everything. You don't want to be sitting there saying, I'm going all in. It's not gambling. I'm not going to be all in on robotics, all in on clean energy. But you say, no, I want 1% of everything. I want some U.S., some emerging markets, some small caps, some large companies, some robotics, some clean energy. And you put it all together to make the risk profile that looks right for you. And that's how you construct the portfolio.
So there are 4 key words in what we do. And there's allocation, asset allocation, like
percentages,
like I said,
that you put in everything.
Risk assessment. How much risk are we willing to take for this particular client, given what their expectations are and where they are in life? Diversification, key. Diversify, because nobody ever knows what sector of the market is the one that's going to be hit, right? And rebalancing, right? So at the end of the year or once a quarter, like last year, at the end of March, we rebalanced everybody's portfolio because the equities dropped like crazy, their bonds went up like crazy, and you sit there and you're going, wow, perfect
Sell
timing.
bonds, buy stocks.
Sell bonds, buy stocks. Done, right? And that's what you're looking for. You're looking to constantly rebalance those portfolios at the appropriate time to sell what's high, buy what's low, making sure that we do the study and say, is it low because it's a piece of crap and it's never coming back, that sector, or because people it's like, hey, they weren't interested.
Did you guys rebalance and take out a lot of the Chinese positions recently with some of the clients?
We sold
have indeed.
Chinese.
Yeah.
We have indeed. And that's almost more from a due diligence perspective, just sitting there saying,
Yeah.
What's our rationale for saying to clients, we have you invested in U.S. listed Chinese companies whose financials we cannot verify?
Right.
And we could be right? You could sit there and invest in the Chinese companies and they go through the roof because everybody else wants them. But from a perspective of fiduciary, you sit there and say, how do I justify this? And right now, it's temporarily that's not justifiable.
So I don't have 50,000. I don't really have anything, right? Can I pick up the phone and call you guys and say, help me create something, right? I want to walk in. I want some folks walking away saying, well, I don't have $50,000. I'm not going to show up and talk to you guys, right? I want folks to understand you can have nothing now,
Absolutely.
right? And you can say, help me create a plan from nothing. Help me create a plan to have one or two of these less a month, or help me have a plan that I can go ahead and do this. This is something you guys can do, right? We can sit down and say, okay, because we do this on the housing side. Sometimes people just are not quite fiscally ready to buy.
Well, it's the same myth with the 20% down.
That's exactly right.
Yeah, let them know that. I mean, I'm sure they know that, but let them know that.
Yeah, so thank you very much. It's a myth out there that folks need 20% down to buy a home. And sure, you can do that if you want, if you've got it, and it works great for your diversification and
Absolutely.
your cash flow and all this stuff. But the normal down payment is somewhere under 10%, somewhere under 5%. Some of these loans...
Now, the caveat is you got PMI if you're not putting 20% down.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
So that's but interest rates are so low that PMI is kind of doesn't really make it much of a difference. That's mortgage insurance, private mortgage insurance on that end of it. But you're 100% right. Most folks are doing 0%, 1%, 2%, 3% down on this stuff. But I just really wanted to make sure folks understood that, hey, if they're liking what they're listening, how do they get a hold of you, right? How do they get in front of you and say, please help me for the future? I have nothing, but please help me.
No, and we have people in our first consultations, and sometimes even more than the first. So we're not on the basis of we're charging you per hour. You come in and we're charging you to talk with us. No, it's the other way around. Like, you come in and talk with us, we're not charging you, right? Our goal is to get you to the point where, as you're making money, then we'll begin to make money. So we've had clients come in and say, I'm starting from zero. I have literally no savings. I don't have a bucket in which to start. I want to start on a monthly basis. And so what we'll do is we'll even walk through them with the budget. We'll say, all right, what's your income on a monthly basis? To some people, you haven't even gotten to the point where you've learned how to budget what you're spending a month. So we'll go through.
Because they're going from paycheck to paycheck.
They're going paycheck to paycheck. So we'll go through the credit card statement and be like, all right, here's how much you're spending on this. Here's how much you're doing on this. Here's how much you can actually afford to do a month in savings, and we'll begin having that automatically deposited to NetGem from your bank account to your savings account and your it's called a brokerage account, but your IRA, your 401k, and you begin doing it. And it looks at the beginning like a small amount. Sometimes you're sitting there saying, Alex, it's only $35 a month. Is that ever going to go anywhere? And I'm telling you, before you know it, they'll come in and they'll be like, what do you mean I have $1,000 in my IRA? I'm like, you've been doing this. You've been consistently putting $35 a month for 3 years. That's what happens.
From a potential client here, Daniel Pettit, Mustache Dan.
Oh, Mustache Dan.
Okay, what fees does your firm ask for your services?
So our fee is 1% of what we're managing. So in other words, and we do it quarterly, so it's 0.25% every quarter. So let's just, for purposes of this, let's say in a year we manage $1,000 and it doesn't change in value. It's $1,000 at the beginning, it's $1,000 at the end. We would charge you basically $10 for that year for us to manage the money. So basically we do it that way because there's other ways that other investment advisors do it, but we do it that way because
it's the fairest way.
Our feeling
You're
is
incentivized to work hard.
Exactly. Our incentive is as your money grows, we get paid more. If we do a bad job and your money goes down in value, we get paid less.
Just think about the value there. You've got 4 rock stars in the industry.
Well, 5. Mrs. Urpí.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
She
provides ideas.
Absolutely.
Yeah. She's watching.
I apologize, Mrs. Urpí.
The gentleman's blushing over here.
Please do not tell my mom I said I made this mistake. And she watches, so I'm...
You actually were ignoring me. I knew that. Don't worry about it.
The 4 was inclusive of mom.
Good save, buddy. Oh, man, I can hear it. My mother's going to call me. I can't believe you did that because she watches. So you get all this advice. Let's say you only be able to put 1,000 over a course of a year. You get this plan. You get all this 5 brain power to it for $10.
Well, depending on what your initial investment is.
Yeah,
It's
the
not-
expect, and you know, we
I think if I heard you
No,
right,
no, if you come in with 1,000,
Yeah.
we're only charging you $10 for that year. Because
and saying help me grow it and giving me
Yes.
a plan. So you're getting
Exactly.
a plan. If you walk in with $1,000, you get a plan. You get all the 5 brain power. You get everybody to help you, right? And basically, at the end of the year, if nothing happens, it costs you $10.
It costs you $10.
Right. It costs you,
And
costs you
we-
2 of these.
Yeah, 2 of those, exactly. And because
Xavier's
we made a
like,
Two
conscious
lattes.
decision.
$1,000 client. That's what this man is.
No,
Xavier, did I do good?
No, you did perfect.
Okay.
That's
I know what you're
no,
thinking,
but that's
Xavier.
exactly right. But you know, it's like when we joined firms, right? When we merged firms, one of the things that I told Alex, I said, the one thing that I've always noticed is that the people that need the most help, right? You go to an investment advisor and they say, how much money do you have? Well, if you don't have $500,000 or $1 million, we're not interested, right?
I wasn't gonna go
And you
there.
can understand why, right? Because of course, $10 is like, you know, who needs it? But I said, we're here to help. The reason we're doing this is because we want to help. And we have the brain power. We have right now the labor. We have 4 people that are hungry and willing to help, right? And I said, we need to help everybody. And you know what? And you never know. The idea is they got 1,000 today. At the end of the year, maybe it's like 1,100, 1,200, and they go, wait a minute, this grew.
This
I need to
works.
put more money away.
That's
And that's
exactly
how
what
and that's how it happens. They get excited. They said, I need to find a way to save a little bit more. And that's the goal.
You got some mortgage officers and brokers that are chomping at the bit about the mortgage.
About the 30.
I'm curious of what they're saying.
Okay, I just want to let you know.
That'd be
including one
cute,
that
that'd be
underwrites
cute.
the show.
Okay, yeah, good. Let's see what Scott has to say.
Okay. Before we get to that, Harry Tyson, they were in Connecticut.
Yeah.
They were doing 100-year mortgages in Japan in the 90s.
Yeah,
They were.
oh,
And he
yeah.
has a link to a CNN article that you guys can find on my Facebook page. Harry, we love when you watch the show. You often make the show better. So, wants to recap the analysis on the 15 versus 30-year mortgage here. Do you guys want to start? And we're going to stipulate this is an underwriter of the show, right?
So Scott wants us to recap it?
Yeah. What their take on it?
Okay,
Yeah,
so
their take on it.
Recap your take on the 30-year mortgage versus the 15.
The
No.
opportunity cost of the money. Is
No,
what you're,
absolutely.
yeah.
No, and listen, I recognize that obviously the 15-year mortgage on the normal scenario has a lower interest rate than the 30-year mortgage. And of course, there's the savings there, right?
But the amortization makes the payment higher.
That's right. Exactly. And that's my whole point. My whole point is that it's a concept of, and I know you're paying more over time. I know you're paying more interest over time, right? Although in today's world, I mean, come on, the 30-year and the 15-year got to be pretty close at this point in time. The yield curve is almost flat. Take 5 years from now or a year from now, the curve is going to even be flatter, chances are. But anyway.
You think so?
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
So my point is that what I'm saying is as a new home buyer, if you're a young home buyer and you just bought a home, you got 30 years. Go ahead and do the 30 years. It's less on a monthly basis. If you can pay more, and we have clients that we told, go ahead and put another X into your principal, right?
Sure.
And let it go, let it ride. Put it in there right now. You go in, come on. We're in the 21st century. You log in, you put in 100.
It's important though,
And
because
it's
this is
this.
what I coach our clients at the closing table is that make sure it goes to principal, because if you
Exactly.
don't,
Yeah.
they'll pay themselves first.
Exactly.
Yep.
So you
No,
got to be very
make sure you go to principal,
Yeah, make
and,
sure it
and
goes
that's
to
it.
principal.
And then, like I said, God forbid something happens. All of a sudden, you got to pay for college. You go, holy cow, I got to pay for college.
An
I don't have the
interesting
money.
question for Scott, if you can crunch some numbers real quick. You know, a $300,000 mortgage, you know, at 15-year versus 30, just P&I, principal and interest. What's the math difference per month?
Yeah.
Right. That I can't do it off the top of my head. Maybe Scott can plug in and shoot out that
If I had
number
my
for us,
HP,
or,
I'd do
or
it, but
maybe
I
that's what
just have a phone right now.
You're looking at probably like a 0.75 savings on the 30 versus 15.
That's
Interest
the
rate.
interest rate. But what's
Yeah.
What's the
cap?
monthly-
What's the
monthly-
monthly?
monthly-
Monthly fee, let me see if I can get a mortgage calculator.
So if you
out
get
right
like 300,000
Yeah, so what we're talking about here is a 30-year mortgage versus a 15-year, even if the interest rates are flat, right? They're exactly the same because of the amortization. The 30-year mortgage on a per month basis is cheaper. We just don't know how much.
What they're saying is that because interest rates are a little lower on the 15-year, of course, that helps you out. Right?
Yeah,
But
I don't
either
think it
way,
balances out,
the payment is much higher, no doubt, on the 15-year than the 30-year. Yeah,
for sure.
And so again,
I mean, it has to be.
that's
You're paying it off in half the time.
of course.
And all we're talking about in doing a 30-year mortgage, and I'm not so sure 40-year, I get chills just thinking about it, but on a 30-year mortgage, you get to control it, not them get to control it. And most people can't. Some people can, some people can't.
Right.
Well, 15-year mortgage, you're still controlling it.
Well,
You're
you can-
paying it off faster.
Correct.
No, I got.
Yeah, I know.
I think what we're saying is with the 30-year, you get to decide whether you want to pay it off faster or not. With the
Sure.
15-year, you are locked into paying it off in 15
From
years.
what I found, okay, and I'm just throwing this out there. If you leave it to a human and you say your 30-year payment each month is this, and you can expedite it by throwing X amount more per month to get it to 15. Human nature, most humans are not going to get it on a 15-year track if they see their 30-year payment each month is this. They're eventually going to get into the role of just doing the 30.
You'll be surprised how many people actually do that.
Go from 30 to
No, how many
15 when
people
they get
actually
30?
pay the extra
Pay
payment?
the
You'll be,
extra.
you'll be
Yeah,
surprised.
it'd be
And
surprising.
Xavier's spot on.
For you to go from a 30-year mortgage to a 15-year
No,
mortgage,
no.
you're going to have to be making way more than that many payments a year. Dude.
It's 3 to 4 payments.
Yeah, more than that.
But there's really not a huge difference between 15 and 18, right? And most people are only living in their homes. Now it's up to 10. It used to be 5 to 7.
Right.
Now it's 10. Now it's 10 years. All, for the sake of a talk show, all we're saying is the 30-year gives the individual flexibility. If the individual does not want that flexibility, then you go to the 15.
Yeah.
And oh, by the way, I know you well enough to know that you've paid some extra payments.
I'm paying on top of the 15.
On top of your 15.
Yeah.
So you're
right. That's
taking,
literally what we're doing.
you're taking the same theory and just applying it to 15
That's correct.
instead of 30.
That's
Because
correct.
you're a very ritualized guy. And
Well, I'm just aggressive.
yeah.
So the other thing though is and I love real estate, right?
Yeah.
But think about this. So when you have money in your house, right? All of a sudden, let's say you've basically paid off your house. Now you have your house. Your house is worth $1 million. How do you get cash flow out of that?
Well, I mean, there's multiple ways. I understand your point.
Right?
I understand
I'm
your
saying,
point.
so if you had a 30-year and
I know
you
how
were
you
still
get cash
paying,
flow out of that.
no,
You
I understand.
call me.
Absolutely. The only way is to sell it.
I don't see
right?
the downside.
Or
What's the
to
problem
go,
here?
no, that's a great way. That's the perfect way. But I'm saying, if you wanted
right?
cash flow, right, the other way gives you the cash flow.
Come on, brother. I
You
was
can
throwing,
sell.
I was throwing you work here.
You can sell the house anytime, whether the guy has a 30-year mortgage, a 15-year mortgage, or a 5-year mortgage, right? I mean, when the person wants to sell the house, he has to sell the house.
Yeah.
All I'm saying
you
is,
can do a HELOC.
yeah, but now you're borrowing.
Yeah, you can. Well, you're borrowing on.
On
your-
what?
on
You're still paying interest.
Right, you're borrowing on a home that's paid off.
And
Yeah,
are you paying interest?
You're still going to get that.
Are you
You're
paying
still gonna
interest?
Pay interest. You are.
Thank you. The
Yeah.
other way, if
Yeah.
you saved it somewhere, you're
have the cash
earning
in your
interest.
bank.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you're
So Alex,
earning
how you
interest.
doing?
But earning,
I'm doing all right. I'm loving this topic. I know.
But the interest on cash in a bank is what is the interest on cash in a bank?
Oh, my God.
Well, you're smart enough to invest it somewhere else.
in stocks. But
Yeah.
this is what the hope is. The hope is that you take a 30, right? And then you're hoping that people pay against the 30 faster, pay ahead of the 30. Then you're also hoping that folks...
No, you have the option. No,
Right.
I'm talking about the option.
Right, but you're also hoping that folks aren't just keeping that extra money in a savings account.
Of
Then you're
course.
also hoping that they go and invest into ETFs.
They put it
the
in a
IRA,
Roth. They put it.
right.
I mean, there's.
So let
again,
me share
it's
something
options.
from a real estate perspective.
Sure.
Right, to kind of bring it back to what this is all. I know, I can tell.
I love talking about it.
Alex and I got to talk about pizza or something. Let
No,
you guys
he
go
loves
ahead.
talking about it too.
Go ahead. 99% of people that buy homes do not look at interest rates. They do not look
That's
at.
terrifying. They don't read their HOA docs.
Let me finish my train of thought, sir. So they don't do that. What they do is they look at what their monthly payment is. They buy a home
At their max.
to how much they can afford per month. right? So when you're out looking for homes, that's usually how this 99.9% of the time starts with, well, I own first-time home buyers for sure. Move-ups or something that have a lot of cash to put down is a different story. But okay, I have $1,800 a month to spend, and that gives me my HOA, that gives me my taxes, that gives me my insurance, and oh, by the way, my P&I, and I really want to pay my electric bill out of that, and I really want to pay my water bill out. That's how 90% of the people think. They don't think like we think, right? Or they don't look at it a different way. Not that you're wrong.
Oh, I know I'm right. I have no doubt I'm right. No doubt about it.
And I know he's wrong, but anyway, I'm not going there.
Okay.
No, but you're right.
So what do we like, the Mets or the Yankees?
There's not even a question.
Good question.
But
I hope it's the Mets.
But so the issue here is that, again, it's a function of how much discipline people have to do what they need to do for tomorrow, right? And whether it be buying a real estate, buying a piece, and that's their first investment. The first investment for everybody is a home. I want my home, and they buy it. And Keith, you're right. They're going to say, here's how much I earn a year. This is what I can afford. So you come in and say, here's the type of houses you buy, and then if the 50-year mortgage pushes them above their regular payment, they're going to go for the 30-year.
Well, that's the reason the lower interest rates. So I'm a huge affordable housing advocate. So what I'm about ready to say has nothing to do with affordable housing. As the interest rate says, your affordability goes up. What you can buy increases, right? So and it's only based on, okay, this is how much money a month I want to spend. Right. Lower interest rate, more house I can afford. Higher interest rate, less house I can afford. So that's the affordability index, which is pretty large right now at 3% or sub 3 anyway.
But it really does all come back, I think, to the discipline piece. And it doesn't matter whether it's getting the 30-year and paying off more or the latte. Yeah. It's forcing yourself to. It is difficult, and I've seen it. We've had people that refer to us, and it's hard. It's hard sometimes to be.
This is a habit. I admit it.
There's things we do that are ingrained in what we do, and to change our habits and to become more disciplined from a financial perspective is not easy because what you're gaining is in the future.
So it was important to me to take away from today's conversation was that you can have zero.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And pick up the phone, call you guys, and you can help them. It's zero. Right, and we're talking about 15 and 30, and we're slicing up 50,000, and we're doing all this great stuff. But it was important to me for folks who are listening or watching this to understand you don't have to have that 50,000. You don't have to have this amount of money. You could be at zero, knock on your door, and say, "Please help me."
Exactly,
and you will help them.
Exactly.
This was my takeaway from today.
How about this one? So Harry Tyson extrapolated the 15 verse 30 comparison on 100K. Okay, so 100K for 30 years at 2.5 is a monthly of $395, and 100K over 15 years at 1.8, you're talking 0.7 less, is $634 a month. So you're talking a delta, quick math over there, is 239. So a 239 monthly delta on the 15 verse 30 with an interest rate of 2.5% for the 30, 1.8% for the 15.
So take $200 and put in that latte factor and see what that spits out.
I love when the viewers answer our questions.
That's two. So we'll do. So I want to go 200.
By the way, Harry, give my wife a hug when she comes over there later today.
Very nice.
Harry Tyson is my son-in-law.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Connecticut in the house.
Nice.
He's
So
the best son-in-law I have.
Over 30 years.
That's 6%.
At 6%, the real cost of that $200 a month is $200,000.
Over how many years?
Over 30 years.
Over 30 years.
Yeah. So it's just for the sake of argument, drop that to 10.
To 10 years?
Because most people don't stay in their home that long, so that's why you can't do 30 years.
So over 10 years, that $200 a month is $32,770.
So you picked up an extra
$32K.
Yeah, but you can take $200 and turn it into 30K in 10 years.
Or I'm just playing devil's advocate for the sake of a talk show. Or after 15 years, your home is paid off.
Your home is paid off.
So what you've foregone, out of that 32K, 24,000 obviously is the actual 200 a month.
Got it.
8,775 is
the gain.
Interest, is the opportunity cost. That's what you can't get back.
Don't forget, Jerry, the leverage there, you are borrowing at 1.8, and you can reinvest at 6%.
Or higher.
Or higher.
And wouldn't you want to do that? I mean, why give the bank all the
we
money?
really spin it around a little bit and throw the appreciation on the house in that calculator.
That's right.
So
And it appreciates whether you got a 15-year or 30-year.
In my particular case, with the properties that I own, I'm real estate heavy. So on my balance sheet, having paid off real estate, in my particular case, makes sense.
Right.
Because the stuff that I have there. But I see your point.
So I want to give kudos to you.
Yeah.
That's absolute genius.
Well, I don't
No. Because I'm from Testament, and that's part of the reason I handed everything off to these folks, because I was real estate heavy.
I don't leverage the portfolio.
Yeah, there you go.
That's the number one key.
There you go. Well, what we had was all real estate. Well, actually, we had a diversity thing, but when you have $17 million worth of real estate, it's a big.
You leverage.
You leverage. You have to
Right.
leverage on that stuff. But in any event, this is fun.
Let's keep going.
No. I want to I just want to reiterate one more time. We're talking big numbers and
Exactly.
and certain. I just want to say to those who are at zero,
We got questions.
there is hope.
You can start. Yeah, you start.
There's hope.
At zero, and you'll be amazed what you can do starting from zero.
And the second thing that I want to give testament to you guys is I was at one of these other places that would not talk to me because my number wasn't at a big number. Mm-hmm. And you guys immediately sat down with me when I said, look, I need some help. Just like the zero, my number's not quite zero, but it wasn't these big numbers that these other folks would not even talk to me about on. So I wanted to hats off and personally say thank you for doing that.
Mary Frances?
Thank you.
Oh, another relative.
Yeah. Okay, well, I think they just picked up a client here. I would like to talk to the other gentleman about affordability and moving forward. So, Mary Frances, I'm going to tag you two on the stream here. Mary Frances Weiland?
Yeah,
Am I saying that right?
that's exactly right.
So, Mary Frances Weiland, I'm responding to this.
So my kin,
Thank you, Mary
I'm going to be
Frances.
talking to your kin.
Yeah, Mary Frances Weiland. I'm tagging Alex Urpí and Xavier Urpí now. They will, can I say they will follow up?
Oh, absolutely,
Okay.
absolutely.
They will follow up with you. So Daniel Pettit, Mustache Dan Pettit, Emergent Financial Services. Mustache Dan Pettit, Emergent Financial Services.
Yep.
He says if buying an investment home, you need to remember the recapture tax you have to pay later. Yes, you do. He's talking capital gains.
Right.
But you can do a 1031, also called a Starker exchange.
Exactly.
A 1031 exchange is a valuable tool. Not to talk politics, but you know where that's from. Biden is talking about getting rid of the 1031 exchange.
I know.
That would be devastating.
And
That
that
would be.
is
if he
freaking
gets
everybody
rid of
out.
the Starker exchange.
That's right.
Do you want to go?
No.
But-
I'm not going there.
Well,
I'm not going there.
no.
But
We
is he not? He's talking
he
about
is.
getting rid of it.
Yes, he is.
Well,
Well, there's-
capital
there's-
gains are talked about being across the board being re-envisioned,
yeah.
aka higher.
Right.
So let's break it down, folks.
We should talk about the Starker exchange.
We should talk about what the 1031 exchange is,
Right.
how it works at a very simple, basic level. What the gentlemen are talking about is the new administration is looking at changing that. And I will tell you,
Do your
because
Starker exchanges right now. Do
well,
your exchanges right now.
well, it's funny. I have several commercial clients who are now not selling,
Of course.
right? Who are now not buying
Yeah.
because of not knowing
The
what
tax exposure.
the
Some
tax
happening.
exposure is going to be. And, why would I buy, well, and particularly sell something if 50 to 75% of that's going away, which is what's being talked about on that end of it. So it's already impacting the market, the commercial market. In particular, residential, I don't see too much impact on it that
Right.
much.
It's going to be different.
Because most people, there's a 500,000 minimum, I think, or $1 million. I can't remember the number on it, or maximum. So it's really not going to impact too much on the residential side. It will impact on the commercial side, big time.
Big time.
The Starker exchange is big time.
And the hardest part is that let's face it, right now because of the pandemic, the commercial side of real estate is the one that is really
vulnerable.
struggling the
Yeah.
most, right?
Oh, I would
So-
almost disagree with you on that. It's very laser focused on what you're looking for. I have commercial clients who cannot find anything on the buy side,
Okay.
but they're not traditional like
Well, a good example
retail.
is the executive offices we have. We have 24 of these. We have a waiting list.
Yeah.
And we saw Class A is the vulnerable spot, and that Class A pushed to B, pushed to C, and then everyone's flooding to executive office
Yeah.
because they just need a spot to drop in, meet with somebody with a closed door
Right,
that's COVID
right.
safe, and peace out.
Gotcha.
So
this
my
is the-
client, my clients are manufacturing clients. Can't find
Warehouse
space for them.
Interesting.
Warehouse space.
I was thinking New York only because there's
Retail.
a couple of people. Yeah. Well,
Or Seminole
no.
Square.
Yeah, there's just
Yeah,
retail
so I mean,
is
retail.
struggling more.
It's not retail,
Right.
It's that's what I'm saying. So it's a very laser focus. If we
Yeah.
wanted to go open up a shoe store or something like that, we probably could find a space. But these are manufacturing folks are trying to move into the area, which helps. Helps everything, and they can't find anything.
So I'll throw this to you, and Xavier and Alex know this inside and out. Starker exchange or a 1031 exchange. A taxpayer may defer recognition of capital gains and related federal income tax liability on the exchange of certain types of property, a process known as a 1031 exchange. In 1979, this treatment was expanded by the courts to include non-simultaneous sale and purchase of real estate, a process sometimes called a Starker exchange. Basically, you can sell a piece of property, you can identify 3 others that you're going to purchase in a short amount of time
Right.
after the sale of that first property, and you can roll the cash from the sale of that property into the purchase of one of the other 3 you identified. And you also have a little bit of flexibility of identifying those properties. You can identify 3, you can take 1 or 2 out and put 2 more in, but there is a time window
90
of doing
days.
this. I don't think it's 90 days. I think it's a little bit longer than 90 days.
You have to identify within 90 days of closing.
Yeah, you have to identify within 90 days. That doesn't mean you have to close on the
No.
deal within
I'm
90
talking
days.
about when you were talking identification.
Yeah.
So you have to identify your parcels
90
within
It's
90
a
days.
powerful mechanism.
It is.
Absolutely.
It's amazing. It's a wonderful mechanism, right? Because it does.
But
listen,
it really doesn't, in the retail, real estate,
Oh,
doesn't really apply too
no,
much.
it's commercial.
to
It's commercial.
Mostly commercial.
Although, I mean, I would say the concept, I think, is what's really powerful that a lot of anyone watching can take away, because you're doing a similar thing when you open a retirement account.
Yeah,
In the
IRA.
sense of, you open an IRA, what you're able to do is you can buy and sell your stocks. So let's say the market goes up and you need to rebalance out of stocks to bonds. You sell some stocks. The beauty is you're not paying capital gains on those because they're within the IRA, and you're able to then make changes to your investments within the context of your IRA and not have to worry, oh, this is going to drag me 15. Do I not want to sell this stock because I might have to pay capital gains on it or short-term capital gains? So the beauty, the concept is there, right? The concept is when I'm investing in something for the long term, you don't want your gains, the growth of your savings, whether it's $10 or a lot in a real estate transaction, you don't want your gains to be dragged down by having to pay taxes on it every year. You want to pay, I don't want to have to pay taxes till I don't pull this out to go spend it. In the case of traditional IRA, right? And that's why these mechanisms exist. And it exists for the small person.
For everybody.
With putting
Yeah.
$50 a month, just as it does in there. And that's why it's so important, though, to talk with someone to make sure you're in the right account type. Because I know a lot of people that they'll open up like a Robinhood or one of these apps, and unbeknownst to them, it's just a traditional brokerage app. It's just a plain old brokerage.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting there saying, oh, you make at least $6,000 a year. You could have opened an IRA and done this.
That's
and all
right.
your gains will be tax-free. And instead, every time you sell one of these little stocks on this brokerage app,
get-
you're paying
you get hit.
taxes on
Yeah.
it.
You're getting nailed.
You got hit
Exactly.
with the tax, and you didn't have to, but as you make enough that you could have put all of this into your traditional IRA, done the exact same thing, except now your growth wouldn't be taxed.
So
every
you
time
just
make a
made an
change.
argument for why people shouldn't use Zillow and they should hire a realtor. It's the
Absolutely.
same,
The same thing.
exact
The same-
concept
It's
the same thing.
on Zillow and the apps and doing all this, which is a great place to search and get information. But then you want to get a trusted advisor to say, whoa, time out. This estimate is way off. This thing is way off. This is where the market really is. But I want to go back to the 1031 exchange thing because it is an important conversation
A lot
to
of
have.
people are asking about
in
this.
in the residential. There is a component typically in the residential world, and we're dealing with a situation with this right now for a client. I'll leave specifics out of it, but he owned rental properties, right? And that's where it becomes important, right? So it's not a primary resident. Primary residents are very different.
You can't do a 1031 on a primary resident.
No.
No.
But on the rental property, so what has happened here is he picked up the phone and called us. There was some family tragedy happening, and he said, look, I've got to get rid of this home. I said, okay, fine, we can sell it for this, but do you understand you're going to get 50, it's going to be a substantial thing. Tell you what, I was watching the I Love Charlottesville Network, listening to a bunch of other realtors. Why don't we try to do a seller financing scenario? And this is what we did. We ended up selling it. It was a seller finance scenario where somebody else was buying it for a rental. He had 10% down, yada, yada, yada.
I have a lot of experience with seller finance.
I know you do. And we are deferring. I've done hundreds of them for other clients. But what we did is we did a workaround for the seller finance. He's receiving a monthly payment. He's now taking that monthly payment, talking to somebody like you that he's doing to go ahead and reinvest it. And he's deferring this out for 10 or 15 years where his situation may be different back on there. So it is a tool that can be used in the residential environment, but typically only for investment property, which are rentals.
In that kind of scenario.
Neil Williamson, president of Free Enterprise Forum, any predictions on how soon Congress may move on tax exchange changes? Do anyone want to make any predictions, or are we going to say it's being percolated in Congress now?
I think it's percolating more than a definite thing. There may be capital gains tax changes, but I think there are a lot of people, even that are in the parties that run Congress right now, that are not quite on board.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of pushback.
With that.
Especially
I know this much. Whatever's being talked about now will change when it's finally gets done.
Yeah, exactly.
What I don't understand about it, maybe that's not the right phrase, is decisions like that negatively impact commerce and the economy.
Exactly. Well, that's what I was going to say.
The lack of decision, and it's real world, because now
even
commercial folks are saying, I'm done, I'm not doing nothing.
The
That's right.
uncertainty
Exactly.
is even worse than the
absolutely.
actual.
Yeah.
Because
Make a decision
you
because
just
you don't
stall
know.
everything.
so we
for-
can adapt and we
That's
can
right.
move on.
Johnny Ornelas, what does it say right there?
I need to make it. Johnny, come see us. We're going to make an appointment with Xavier and now.
Yeah, Johnny Ornelas. It would be a very, very wise decision.
Anytime.
Emergent Financial services.
Johnny, you need to do it, buddy.
And the CMO was quick to respond to Social Media Ninja.
Ninja's already there?
Look, we would love to have you,
Oh, he's
Johnny.
good. He is
Job, Social Media Ninja CMO.
Nick is good. He is good at this, I have to say.
Harry, your brother, your son-in-law is amazing. People also use Robinhood because they want discretion over their own investment decisions and don't necessarily trust that IAs will do better than they can on their own.
So what was
True,
the question
and it
I
wasn't-
asked
yeah.
you when we were sit down?
Something like to do some
I
discretion.
wanted a portion of it that I could
Yep.
control.
No, and it's an understandable,
Well,
idea. on some people, but
your point was that you can open, if you open the right
Exactly.
account.
If you open the right, the value of the financial advice is often not just limited to picking investments. It's often also someone to advise you to say, I'm pretty sure at Robinhood Fidelity, you can open Roths and traditional IRAs, but a lot of times people don't think about it.
Right.
Because
That's
no
what
one,
it is.
the financial professional wasn't there to say, before you even take this first step,
Bingo.
do you make
this.
$6,000 in income this year? If the answer is yes, open a traditional IRA or a Roth IRA.
Roth, exactly. Especially for the young ones.
And what happens is sometimes you don't think about that. And it almost goes back to what you were saying, Keith. Sometimes the value of financial professional isn't necessarily, it's not like you can't sell a house by yourself, but you're missing out on, if someone goes and tries to do it themselves, you're not there to say, well, you could do
Well,
a
it
seller
goes back.
financing.
It goes back to Jerry's comment about the 30 and the 15 year, right? So will they have the discipline to do it? Harry does. He's a genius at this stuff. This is my son-in-law. He truly is. He's a genius at this stuff, right?
Most don't, though.
That's
the
well.
problem.
Many people don't.
Well, I'm not a genius at this stuff, so I know what I'm good at, and I know what I'm not good at, and what I'm not good at, I'm going to hand over to somebody that I know is good at. It's I'm pretty good at delegating from that perspective on that, but I do want a portion of it that I
Exactly.
can play with. That I'm in the housing business. I want to play with housing stocks. I want to play with this kind of stuff. That please give me a little bit to play with.
I suggest an ETF. But these are the pros over here.
So, and one of the things is behavioral science, right? The issue about investors sometimes is you invest in stocks, right? And the issue is that the chances are you're not going to be 100% right every single time.
Sure.
And you sit there and you watch a stock go down 10%. You go, well, I can't sell it now. It's down 10%. It's got to do better. Then it goes down another 10%. Before you know it, you got a situation where the stock is down 50%, right? And you can't pull the trigger. You can't sell that because behavioral, you just like,
It'll get better. It'll get better.
It'll get
It'll
better.
get better.
You have
It'll
that
get
need.
better.
And that's the difference, right?
Well, again, my third or fourth time I'm going to repeat this. I'm going to continue to repeat it until the show is done. You can have zero and talk to these folks.
Exactly.
Right? And that's what you need to do. You need to talk to them. Johnny's going to pick up the phone and talk to you. He's a home run guy. Love him to death. His family is
They know Johnny.
like his family is like your family. It's an unbelievable family. But you can have zero and say, please help me.
And I think people sometimes they make that mistake also thinking, well, I don't have enough. I'm going to do a Fidelity. I have to do this on my own by opening up like a Robinhood or an Acorn.
Well, that was the point I'm trying to make.
I can't go to a professional. That's not. I don't have enough to go.
Well,
and at least for us, it's not the case. And granted, I know some people have had bad experiences where you go and I said, I don't.
Well, that's the reason I wanted to talk about that $10 versus $1,000, right? Because you walk in, you go, oh my God, how much do I have to pay you? I don't have any money in. Period. How much I have to pay you to give me this advice? And the answer is upfront nothing.
Upfront nothing.
Keith, we've had people walk in, right, and say, here's my, I've got an option here in my pension plan, right, from their 401k or their retirement from a particular, company or Virginia, right, teacher's pension, whatever, and they come to us and say, here's my options, what should I do, right? And they come in, we tell them, here's the best shot for you. Do this, do that. And sometimes I know it's not coming our way because, it's an annoyed or something where the decision, whatever decision is being made, is going directly to them. But it's the right thing to do. They come to us for help, and it's like I read the paperwork, Alex reads the paperwork, say, here's the best thing for you. Go for it.
So let's take another example.
You guys are good people.
My daughter, my youngest daughter and husband, out in Seattle, doctor. He's in his residency. Most people don't know that these guys only make about I think it's $52,000 a year.
My girlfriend's in residency, so I know they're heavily underpaid.
Significant school debt.
He has significant, huge school debt.
Yeah.
My youngest daughter's a teacher, which out in Seattle does well on that end of it. And I had this conversation with them, and she has not substantial debt. We picked up most of it, but she has school debt on that end of it. I was going, look, guys, you just got married. You need to talk to these folks. You need to get the ball rolling, right? Don't do what mom and dad did, get all heavy on real estate, and things happen and have to rebuild again. Now's the perfect time to do that. And the first answer out of our question, we can't do this. We got so much debt. We got hundreds of thousands, literally hundreds of thousands of dollars of school debt. I said,
there's different loans for doctors, though, because of their earning potential. A doctor loan is a very different loan from a mechanism and term standpoint than like the average buyer gets.
For buying of homes, absolutely. I'm not even talking about buying a home because they're not going to be there that long term on that.
Within just the student loan debt.
The student loan debt, but you're 100% right. We should bring in Scott to talk about doctor loans. They're very unique animal. It's amazing what deals they get. They got to finish their residency first, right? And then their what's the thing?
A fellowship.
Fellowship. Thank you. The fellowship after that. So my daughter and son-in-law out in Seattle have years left before they're done with that. But now's the time to start, right? And the answer is I can't do that. I got $750,000, $500,000 in school debt. So what's the answer to that?
So the answer to that is always, and we sit down with people and we do this very frequently, is it's all about interest rates there, right? Because the question really there is, what's more valuable, saving this long term or paying off more of my student loans, right?
Sure.
Granted, right now they're at zero temporarily.
Sure.
But let's assume
that they are student loans.
There's because of pandemic.
Yeah.
They don't have to pay the interest.
That's eventually going to stop, though.
Which is eventually going to end. You can pay the principal. You should be paying the principal down.
No, what Jerry's talking about is like the real estate. I mean, forbearance, where the interest and the principal is being tacked on. This is an actual stop.
So the student loan debt is not tacked on the back end.
No. I don't believe so.
The
interest rate that you're foregoing now, that it's zero, is not going to be added back.
So the earned interest expense, it just goes away.
It's gone temporarily. But even if it
has to be federally backed and all that fun stuff.
Exactly. But even if this weren't the case, if your student loan debt is 5%, I'm just putting a number out there, 5%, and you're sitting there saying, I'm aiming as a younger person, right? I'm aiming for 7-8% annually in the market over a 40-year period. Sometimes it still made sense to figure out, okay, how can I do, I have to pay off some of the student loans. Can I also begin saving? And that's always a conversation.
Is there any value to refinance the school debt?
To refinance the school debt?
It's probably tough to find a lower interest rate.
It depends,
Sure.
Typically, especially if
there's
the
difference between a home. There's a collateral there, right?
Got it.
Student
Got it.
debt is like, what's the collateral other than the fact that they work?
And so what we do is we work with people, and that's another thing that people don't often think about is when you come to a financial advisor, we're not just saying, I'm only advising you on the money you give me, and everything else in your life, you're on your own. It's, no. If you have, we have people that come to us, I have this pension plans, I have this Social Security that I'm expecting, or
I have
even
this debt.
I have this debt, I have this credit card debt.
Yeah, sure.
And we will run the whole thing through them and say, all right.
So that's what I'm going
you're
back
gonna
to.
do
If
this.
it's only $1,000, you get all that for $10.
You get all that for
in
10
1
bucks,
year.
basically, in 1 year. Because the goal is to put you in a good position.
It's true.
I know it is true. I mean, and it's a conscious
I'm just
decision
walking.
we made.
I'm now walking back the amount of money I want to give you. So,
Stop.
How little should I give them?
I'm just thinking
and
this,
get
huh?
all this
That doesn't make sense.
advance.
Don't step over quarters to pick up nickels. You're
point.
pro. Lots of people don't realize also how Robinhood will use your own shares to short the stocks you own, as well as flow better prices to larger institutions for a kickback. It's why their services are free. That's the dirty little secret of Robinhood.
Oh yes,
That is
and it's the secret of all the $0
There's
commission
no,
things.
no such thing.
There's no
That's
such
right.
thing
Yeah.
as free trading. They are
That's
doing
right.
other things
They're
with
using
your
your
money.
data.
well, let's face it. There's no such thing as free. Period.
That's right.
Period.
No free lunch, as
Period.
they used
There's no
to
such
say,
thing as
right?
a free lunch. Period. So yeah, they're doing other things with your as people that were in Robinhood found out earlier this year with that whole fiasco.
Multiple folks are talking about the 40-year mortgage.
Oh, geez.
I know.
40-year mortgage.
Great.
Yeah.
I love it. I love it. Where's that 50-year mortgage is what I want to
You want
know.
to handle this?
No. Look, here's the deal.
You guys mentioned a 40-year mortgage. Are there many offering that right now? Please let us know.
No, so we're going to let Scott chime in on that. All I know is what I'm reading, that is a new product that's going to come out.
The 40-year mortgage is only going to make the bank rich, right?
Well, what
maybe.
the principle behind it is because of sales prices are climbing and interest rates are staying stable.
It's making it affordable.
If you stretch it out over 40 years, your monthly, go back to this comment
monthly
that
payment's
people
lower.
are buying by their monthly payment. So if it's a 40-year, it's the same thing. If I go look at the brand new car and if I do a 5-year loan or a 6-year loan, it's that much less. I know your head's exploding. I don't do that. Personally, don't do that. But people do that, right, to afford the car. Because, look, they're living in Buckingham County, to talk about back into this, and they've got to travel into town to go to work.
Me the other day and said, I want to buy a new car. I don't really need one. I don't have the money to do it. I'm going to finance it. And I'm going to do a lot of this on credit card. I'm like, Jesus,
What
dude.
the hell? What? No.
That's a whole.
So this is when
That's
you
an
give.
easy one, right?
This is.
It's 40%. He's going to do it on a credit card.
I think you need to call the Urpís.
Call us so that we can stream. No.
I said, drive around your current car, that's fine. That's what I said. Pretty soon, how about this one? I don't have children now in college, but what about 729 loans for Alex and Xavier?
So
529 loans?
Yeah,
The
I
729
think
or
it's
529?
529.
529.
So there are a couple. That's an interesting one. I think there are numerous options with. Sometimes people think the option is the 529. The key with 529 is basically your access to the money basically vanishes. What you're basically doing is saying, I'm paying this, I'm putting this much into the system so that my child will get to college at state institutions at the future.
So you
There's
pay-
no ability to
Yeah.
then use that for something else. What we'll often advise, this is like a little trick we'll often advise people, is that you can also use certain other mechanisms. Like most people don't know, you can use your Roth IRA to pay for your child's college.
Yeah, sure.
And the beauty of that is if they don't go to college, let's say they say, I want to do a vocational school, it's only 2 years, and it's not a state-run college, you can do that.
Yeah.
And if it ends up being less than you thought you were going to use for college, guess what? Now it's in your retirement account, and you can just leave it there till you retire. So our advice is usually, first,
you gotta
let's
look- you
look at
gotta look at the whole
holistically.
picture. You gotta look
Let's
at the
look at the
whole
big
picture, yeah.
picture and see what are the other things we can cobble together before you go 529. Is your flexibility just so much more limited with the 529? Because basically, if your child says, I don't want to go to a 4-year institution, the state's like, thank you for your money.
Well, that's changing a little bit. Sometimes you get some of that money back.
You get a little bit back.
Yeah,
It's
you get
true.
some of that. And then at the same time, you can go from one state to another. Now, it's a little more
But if you
flexible,
don't,
but
I'm saying if you
nevertheless.
don't go the 4-year
Yes.
track, you're leaving money on
So
the
if you
table.
know for
nevertheless,
sure
the other-
your son or daughter is going to go to
Yes.
some state college, it makes a lot of sense.
Or it does
But
make
much
sense.
like the conversation we had between the 30 and the 40
Mm-hmm.
and the 15, the IRA gives you flexibility.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
That if it should not happen, you at least have the money for you to use as a retiree.
Exactly, and sometimes it's never like an either or. It's a both approach, right?
Got it.
You put some in a 529,
Sure.
but you put some of what you're thinking, right?
Yeah.
Is in mentally you're saying this is my child's
Sure.
college fund into my own Roth IRA, with the knowledge that
Some
if
of
it
those
doesn't-
529s are like grandma and grandpa gave $10,000 to Jerry's to Trey.
Exactly.
And then you put that right in there, and it's
Right in there.
then it's good.
Right.
Exactly,
You just park it
exactly.
in there, and it works. It works. It doesn't. It doesn't. So that's we've done that, and it was
Exactly.
gifts from family members that when we had children, we set that up.
Well, that's really the only place you can put it right now. Gifts from family members of substantial amounts where they're not taxing and
That's
taxed as
exactly
they
right.
grow.
That's exactly.
So
Let's talk about
use
that because there's a number for that, right? Is it a certain amount of money
that you can put for the
No, the tax thing. So if I give my daughter X amount of money, isn't it like under 10,000
So
bucks or
gift
something like
tax wise is now
What is that now?
15.
that? We'll save this for
was
another
for-
show,
It's
maybe.
It keeps going
changing,
up,
but
well,
I
there's
think
two
it's
things there.
15
Remember, even if you
grand.
were to, even if you can deduct it as a gift tax, 15 now.
Yeah.
Okay, so even if you can give up to 15 and they're not taxed on it, there's really no place to put it where, as it grows, it won't be taxed,
Right.
other than the 529. Because
So there
really
you
the
go.
only other options are the Coverdell,
Coverdell,
but that's
yeah,
a
but that's only
$2,000
$2,000
max.
So I've got grandma, grandpa give me X amount of dollars. You can put it into 529.
529.
For our grandkids. to
Exactly,
go
and
to
the beauty
college.
is the growth. I mean, it's not.
So I'm
growing
going to
in
get a
traditional
PM
sense.
I'm going to get a message from my son-in-law. Go. So where's my 10?
Where's your 10,000? Where's my 10?
Talk to Alex Kevin says, how can we contact Emergent Financial Services?
There you go.
Very simple. Phone number is 434-260-1690. We always pick it up. You actually did us. EmergentFS.com. Emergent, F is in financial, S is in services.com. We're on Facebook. You can find us there. Our emails, feel free to email us personally, alex@emergentfs.com and xavier@emergentfs.com. We try to do it really personal. And if you call, we're really happy to talk to you. You can walk in. We're on Old Ivy Road.
Is that 15? This question, is that 15 for each parent, grandparent, and each child?
It's 15 on the basis of the person giving.
That's right.
So each person giving can do
Live
15.
by quizzing.
Yeah,
guys
that's-
on the show in front of
And these are
cameras.
taxes, right? This is
These are
tax.
taxes.
So I just want to let you know, when you look at my stuff, none of this is going over.
Good show here. How about some final words? 11:45.
Some final words? No, just I think I love Keith's reiteration this time is that the number one thing, and this is a conscious decision we made when we started this business, even just as being Latinos in the Latino community, we had so many people coming to us saying, I can't get the time of day from someone else because I don't have $250,000 when I walked in the door.
Or they're
And-
working 7 days a
Or they're
week.
working 7 days a week.
Mm-hmm.
And we made a conscious effort that when people are like, when should I come see you? We're like, do you need 5:30? Do you need 8 o'clock on a Saturday
You
morning?
came to see me.
Well, we came to see you.
Mm-hmm.
We worked around people's schedules because our philosophy is that's where a lot of people are not being served. The people that sit there and say, I want to start, but nobody seems interested in this. And for us, it's like that's where we can actually do the most good. And the beauty of it is as you grow, we'll grow. Like that's the whole point. And the more we can help people get on a great financial footing, I don't ever want to see another person come to me at 60 and be like, I have no savings. What do I do?
That might happen.
I want to just, it may happen and we'll help you with that. But I want to see the beauty of where people, you're in it. I think you're
I'm a
in
unique character.
You're in a unique place.
and the
and
other
good.
thing is,
We just want to see people feel good. and
It's a
be-
people business, and we just, I mean, I would say that the difference between doing institutional and retail is that in retail you get to talk to people. In the institutional, that you go into front of the board, you did a good job. Xavier, see you next year, good to go, right?
Exactly.
In the retail, I get to talk to people, right? And you get to hear their story, and they tell you. I mean, a lot of people they just tell you everything about their life, right? And that's great. That's what you want to hear because now you know exactly who they are, what they need, what their goals are, and you can create that perfect scenario for them, right? And that's the best part. That's what I love. That's why it doesn't matter whether 0 or you got 500,000.
Kitchen table
people.
talk.
Yeah, exactly.
Makes all the difference in the world.
Exactly.
Emergent Financial Services, guys. Emergent Financial Services, honest, reliable, good guys,
Thank you for that.
approachable. Seriously, you guys are A+.
Appreciate
Thank you,
it.
Jerry.
Appreciate it.
Thank you, Keith.
Keith Smith,
Want to talk about Monday, maybe?
Yes Realty Partners. Yeah, we got about 30 seconds.
Okay, we do not have to do that.
Tops.
Come and see us on
30
Monday.
seconds.
Come and see us on Monday.
On Monday, we're launching a new show.
A new show?
It's going to be the Monday Market Monitor.
Nice.
I don't know. We got to talk about this a little
give
bit.
about 30 seconds.
Oh, yeah. So we're going to talk about what's happening in the market between Thursday and Friday, and Sunday. Market's moving pretty quickly. Get some information out. We're going to rotate real estate agents out of the seat over there,
That's
talk
gonna be
about
fun.
what's going on in their world and market. A lot of numbers, a lot of stuff, and we'll have a lot of fun at the time.
And it's perfect. Instead of go to Zillow, they come to the show and they'll learn more.
Yeah, there you
More.
go. I love it. Love you, brother.
Real Talk presented by Yes Realty Partners, powered by Intrastate Service Company, guys. This show all about approachability and knowledge to you where you are the most, which is on your smartphones. For Keith Smith, Alex Urpí, Xavier Urpí, Judah Wickhauer, and Liza the dog. My name is Jerry Miller, and this is Real Talk on the I Love CVille Network. Take care, guys.
Thank you, Jerry.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It was fun.
I mean, that was a lot of fun.
Yeah, I'm in.
Absolutely.
I'm in.